G'day there, it's Dave here, Dave Mills with my second Endgame video. And you're going to notice, if you've started to go through the DM theory of chess, you're going to notice that I've actually started to favour more and more describing where the pieces move, talking about their home squares, but not actually doing a video, actually just having a picture and then you have to follow me in your mind. Now, I'm doing that deliberately because that develops mind speed. Okay, mind speed activates all four quadrants or all four lobes, temporal lobes in your brain, basically. And so if you want to develop mind speed, chess is one of the most fantastic things because it really does have the ability to access all four parts of your body, of your brain. So mind speed is a very, very important topic and makes a huge difference, and visualization is very much part of it, and stimulating that brain. So you've got the audio with my voice, you've got the visual in your own brain, you've got the picture right in front of you, that's also a visual. And you might be looking at this position here going, where are all the pieces? Okay. Now, believe it or not, this position is very, very typical to an endgame. Now, the easy way of understanding how to promote a pawn is understanding where the key squares are. Where do you want to stick the king? You obviously don't just want to suicide your pawn, you want to win the game. And believe it or not, this occurs all the time. And so it's all about furtherance. The key squares here for the pawn on the second rank, it hasn't moved yet, so it's got that initial burst of 2 squares, very useful. So you want to get the king on the 3 squares 2 ranks in front of the pawn. b4, c4, d4. You want to get your king there as fast as possible. You don't want to let the king, have dominance over those key squares. So you don't want to take the opposition yet. That's where you go face to face with the king, 1 square apart, blocking the king's movement. You want to actually, in this position, get to one of the key squares, b4, c4, or d4 as fast as possible, while also denying key squares to your opponent king. So obviously, d3 is the move, king to d3. So now king to c5. King to c5. Well, the king now can't go to d4, can't go to c4, but can take the opposition, can go to c3. And at c3, the king has a choice to go left or go right. It doesn't matter which way it goes, you get to advance to one of the key squares for the first time. So you're able to, let's say the king goes to, when you move to c3, king goes to b5, you go king d4. At king d4, the king at b5 goes to c6, you move king c4. You repeat this process. And that's how you work your way down the board. If the pawn is at the 3rd rank, the key squares are 2 ranks ahead, and those 3 squares again. So if the pawn was at c3, the key squares you need to reach with the king are b5, c5, and d5. And then when the pawn is at the 5th rank, you've actually got 6 key squares. The 3 pawns immediately immediately in front of the pawn, or the 3 squares on the 7th rank. So on the 6th and 7th rank, so you've actually got 6 key squares. You can move your king to win. So and so on, and then it can vary if it's the knight pawn or if it's the edge pawn. So now, looking at this position here. This, you would say, it's a classical position. And why have I actually chosen this? Because I want you to think about the endgame in a clear way. Making a plan in a clear way means you actually understand what the endgame is all about. Just like golf, their endgame is putting. In chess, our endgame is to do with the pawns, and let's just go through the reasoning. Because the king's attack on the king is a middle game phenomena, right? It's a lot harder to get a mate on the king in the endgame. It's not impossible. You can definitely use it to your advantage, use that threat to get a winning game. But in this position here, we actually can see that the kings can't, there's not enough pieces to get the king. Often in the end game, the queens have come off. That's a big sign you're in an end game. Secondly, in this position, there are no other pieces, but even if there were other pieces, they've got plenty of space to move around. It's very difficult to trap them and zap them or deactivate them. It's, unless they're a knight on the edge of the board and you've got a bishop. So, in the end of the day, the endgame is not about the king. It's not about the pieces. It's about the pawns. Okay, this is just logical deduction. The end game is about pawns. Golf is about putting. Okay, that's rule. They can quote the rules of chess there. Team rock all the way. So now, normally it's difficult to attack pieces. It's difficult to attack the king. So it's about the pawns. Now, there's two things about the pawns. Okay, it's about there's furtherance, which is the accelerating into promotion, or often that means simplifying and opening things up, and also it's about attacking weak pawns, and so pawn structure is key, and if you have a bad pawn structure, your opponent wants to exchange into an endgame and destroy you. So, okay, obviously there's only two sides have pawns. Your pawns are their pawns. Okay, so your opponent's going to attack your weak pawns, and you know that you're going to attack their weak pawns, and you know that they're going to try and, get furtherance and so if you want to attack weak pawns, what are you going to do? You've got to fix them in target. Now, in this case, it's all about pawn promotion, okay? And so the hero of this position is the pawn that hasn't moved the entire game, the C pawn. And so in this position, you take control of the key squares and you keep taking opposition to the king, and then at the key time you advance the pawn, and you finally take opposition on the 6th rank, and whichever way the king goes, you duck in forwards to the opposite, and then you can drive the pawn finally to the 6th, 7th, and then finally the 8th rank and get a queen. And then checkmating with a king and a queen should be very easy for you. Okay, so now in this position here, I want you to notice that the position, this position here is extremely common. It's going to occur all the time where you have a pawn and a king versus king. It's a general principle. You understand now the star of the endgame is the pawns, and that's what I really wanted to sort of cover for you, and also to discuss with you a bit about mind speed. So you want to destroy your opponent's weak pawns, and you want to you obviously want to promote your passed pawns. It's that simple. There you go. I've just cleared. I just cleared up. Cleared up for you all the confusion. Okay, and in the next video, we'll talk about weak pawns versus we'll talk about how to attack weak pawns, and that will mean also fixing. Okay, that'll mean fixing weaknesses. It'll mean about attacking the pawns on any rank, and what is a weak pawn? I will save that for another video. All right, here we go. Take care. Bye.